Go on, we can just start off top. Congrats on the newest line off top.
Oh, thank you.
You did the sweater, right? And it was the with the Carhartt and everything like that. Are those new mediums for the line?
Um, yeah, some of them. I wanted to do more because in the past I've done just a lot of T-shirts and sweatshirts because that's the cheapest blanks you can get. But then I wanted to mess around with pants and some button-ups and stuff like that. So I bought some Dickies stuff and just embroidered on that.
That's sick. That's what's up. Where are you from?
New York City.
New York City. What did you listen to growing up?
Um, Not a whole lot. Like my parents would play some stuff, but I didn't really. I don't remember paying attention to it until I was probably like 13 or so. Then I started getting into music, and I just started because my music started before I had any streaming service, so I
Mm.
would just download a bunch of like free mixtapes and stuff like acid rap and stuff like that, and then eventually it broadened, and here we are today.
Yeah. Were you a Dat Piff guy?
Yeah.
My man. That's how you got to start out. That's the wave. Do you think any of the music you listen to has influence on your clothes and your art?
Most definitely. If it weren't for the music, I don't think I would have started making clothes because
Mm.
I got into music before I got into fashion, and then music kind of introduced me to fashion. Guys like
Mm.
Tyler the Creator, A$AP Rocky, and whatnot, and then I'd be like, oh, cool, and I'd like buy I don't know, some artist's merch, and I'd wear that, and it'd make me feel better. So I got into clothes and then started making them.
Okay. Were you like drawing at all, or doing other art mediums for the clothes, or was it you would?
Um, I I've always been kind of drawing throughout my life. I've actually slowed down since I started making clothes, but mainly I did a lot of video editing. That was kind of my thing before
Okay,
this.
that's interesting. So the brand is always happy. What does
Yeah.
happiness mean to you?
Um, that's a great question. Well, I kind of named it Always Happy in a way because I wanted to. I knew mental health would be kind of like a central focus of what I was doing, and I wanted to address that somehow in the brand name, but I also didn't want it to be like corny, and that it was just like
Mm-hmm.
obviously what I was doing. So I went with Always Happy, which is kind of I think it's a little bit up to interpretation of the customer as to what that means, because you could be actually like a happy person and you buy the sweatshirt because it's like, oh yeah, I am always happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could be a depressed person and then it's kind of an irony.
Right. That's interesting. That's an interesting like concept for kind of leaving it up to the consumer's perspective of what the brand is going for. Um, yeah, because I was reading the interview we did with Pepper Adams the other day, and that was a really great interview.
Thank
But
you.
mental health was a big part of it. First off,
Yeah.
how is your mental health today? You doing alright?
I mean, I'm in therapy. I'm on antidepressants and whatnot, but
Mm.
I think we're getting there.
Right. Yeah. Well, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 16.
Oh, you're 16.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm old. I'm like 21. I'm an old head. Um, yeah, and then you were just I think you already kind of touched on this a little bit. But what role does that play when you are creating or when you're designing clothes?
Um, well, I think a big goal I have for Always Happy is to kind of. Well, I've just always had trouble like putting words to my mental health because it's just and feelings in general. It's hard to like sit down and describe them to people. So I just told myself like, oh, I've always been into visual arts and whatnot. Might as well show people. So then through the clothes, I want to be able to show people kind of these feelings that people go through. But I don't think I've really nailed that yet. But that's something I'm striving for.
Right. That's interesting. Because you put out the design or the little lookbook a little bit ago. How is that process going?
That was fun. I like doing books. It's fun to have like a physical copy of all the pictures I just take goofing off with my friends.
Mm-hmm. So are you the guy behind the camera when you're doing that, or do you have a photographer?
Not always. There's a pretty like large team of people who have helped me out, and I think that I have them all listed on the credits page, and they're people who help me out in doing like random things. But I also kind of do a little bit of everything just because I'm usually not with all those people.
But yeah, especially now it's kind of tough because you're not allowed to see anybody.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good skill. And what do you because you mentioned Tyler the Creator, do you kind of credit that a little bit to him because he was always someone who had his hand in everything? Do you think that inspired you as well?
Most definitely. I think it's people who do a bunch of different arts are very inspiring to me, but also I kind of have to learn all this out of necessity just because I can't pay to have a photographer or someone to edit my videos and stuff like that, so I just taught myself how to do it.
Yeah, and because that's something else that I liked about the Pepper Adams interview. I think you talked about how like some financial bumps can kind of keep people or hold some creatives back when creating. So how would you go?
I think that's especially true in fashion because it's like I said earlier. Like I could make sweatshirts and hoodies for relatively cheap and then sell those and make money off of that. But then if I want to do like I have ideas for other clothing things I just can't do because I'm financially limited.
Right.
So it's frustrating. But I just want to kind of get to the point where I can create freely, but then excess money beyond that point seems kind of unnecessary to me. I don't see the point in like doing this to get rich. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, and that's a big thing with a lot of artists because I went to school. I just graduated school for music business, and a lot of the kids down there were always talking about like I'm trying to get rich, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, and it's like, but what are you trying to do like in your art? Like what are you trying to talk about when you create music and stuff like that? And they're like, oh, that's not what's important. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a little sad that you think that to hear like a 30-year-old man talking like that. So it's real inspirational to hear someone your age not really worried about the money or anything like that because that's all fake. Money's fake. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah. So what have you been listening to recently, or what do you listen to when you're designing your clothes?
I don't have like go-to design music. I usually don't even have set times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to design now. I usually just will be on my computer, then something pops in my brain and I'll start doing it. But I've been listening kind of a lot of George Clanton. I'm a big George Clanton fan. Board the Canada a lot. Also a lot of kind of people in that. We talked about this a little bit in the Pepper interview too. Just that whole scene is very fun to listen to, whether it's like Amir or any of the No Clue guys. I love Cruisen's music, Preem, like it's all great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just talking. That's the interview I had earlier. I was just talking to Cruisen. He's good people
nice.
For sure. Yeah, because he was on.
We did a photo shoot together.
I was about to say he was one of the. He was on one of the T-shirts he did, right? In that first collection.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah, that first collection or the first collection that I saw at least, was sick. I got the hoodie with the little drippy smiley face on it. And it was great because I was able to like send that to my mom and be like, this is something I want for Christmas because she's always bugging me about that. And yeah, it was nice because it wasn't like mad expensive like you were saying. Like you were able to kind of, because hoodies were kind of, I guess, a little bit less expensive medium comparatively to sweaters and stuff like that. So she was like, oh, this is different than the stuff you usually send me. That's like $100. So that's nice. But do you think that's a not a problem, but do you think that's a weird like trend in fashion now that you see a lot of kind of just not normal looking t-shirts, but just t-shirts going for like $75-$80 and stuff like that? Or do you not see that as?
I think in some cases it's definitely stupid that people do that because it's just to make more money and to kind of create this kind of like exclusivity around the t-shirt, which I understand if you want to be like, oh, like only like a select, only if you have this, it means like it becomes almost a status symbol. But I don't think the best way to do that is by raising the price. I think a better way of doing that is just limiting your quantity
Yeah, for sure. What are some fashion? If any, were there any fashion brands that inspired what you do?
Yeah, I I don't really have like go-to brands like that, other than this brand called Aim Wet, which I'm a very big fan of. They're
Mm,
a New York-based one too, so that's kind of exciting.
but
But I usually just find stuff kind of randomly. Like it'll just be random pictures of different people wearing different clothes. I'll be like, oh, that gives me an idea, and then I jump off that.
yeah, how do you think living in a city like New York has influenced you? Because that's something I actually talked about with Cruisin', where he's New York based. So like he just talks about how it's a real epicenter of art. How do you think that's influenced what you do, if at all?
Yeah, most definitely. I don't think the city itself really inspired me to make clothes or get into music and stuff like that in the beginning. But then once I did, it's just such a great resource because like you can go, and one of like the most fun experiences I had last year is I went to this Mike's concert, his little festival, the Young World thing,
Oh,
where
okay.
it's just a bunch of just artists. They're all creating. They're making T-shirts outside, like right in front of you. They're sewing stuff. Like it's fun to be a part of communities like that. The
Hmm.
city allows me to put my hand in that.
But is that like a goal of yours? Would you want a like a physical show or some type of
Oh
festival like that?
yeah, absolutely. I'm working. I was planning on having a runway show this April, but that was obviously canceled due
Hmm.
to Corona.
Yeah,
But I think we're gonna. I'm gonna. I'm still trying to get it done. I just don't know when.
yeah. It's unfortunate. A lot of stuff got pushed back. Yeah, a lot of stuff did. I was supposed to graduate. I was supposed to have that big ceremony,
Yeah.
and then everything got shut down.
Yeah.
Because you recently just started up the blog for Always Happy as well.
I did. Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind that and the future plans for it?
Well, I've always just kind of wanted to do it, but really never jumped into it because it was kind of a like a big commitment that I just had to like. I don't know. It just wouldn't. I wouldn't be proud of myself if I just like made like one or two articles and quit.
Mm.
But then my friend Achille reached out to me about he wanted because he knew I obviously know how to do websites, so he's thinking about making his own website to start a blog, like write about music because that's what he wanted to do. I was like, ooh, or you could just make it a part of my website and I can add a segment for it on that. And we took it off from there.
Okay, that's interesting. And then, what would you say the overall goal for your brand is for the Always Happy?
I still think that goal is, like I said earlier, just to reach a place where I feel like where I can like look at an item I made and like, wow, like that really like is expressive of something like deep
Mm.
within me. Most of my goals are not like monetary. It's just I want to find just like be able to create spaces for artists like the Young World thing I was talking about. Just I don't know. I think the community that can be created around art is just it's a very fun place to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that's something that you also said with those No Clue and Apollo's Harp, which is Achille and all those guys. I think they're a part of this really great, interesting thing that's going on, and it's all happening through Twitter, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. Do you use Twitter as like a main medium for you to
Yeah.
contact?
Most definitely. I mean, I think that's how all those guys definitely also played a large part in inspiring me because I was just kind of goofing around on social media before, and then I can see all of them creating this art, and then I decide to get into it, and they support me, which feels really good. And then it's nice to just watch this movement of music kind of just explode.
Yeah, and it's getting real exciting too because there's more and more people coming out like every day that are
Exactly.
really doing great stuff.
Mhm.
I think that's all I have actually. I think that's all the
Fantastic.
questions I have. Yeah, I really appreciate the time and everything like that, man.
Thank you for reaching out to me.
For sure. Yeah, no, and yeah, keep doing your thing. I think it's really exciting stuff, and I think it's gonna go a lot of places, definitely.
Thank you.